I live in a typical Soviet-era apartment block, the kind where the morning soundtrack is always a drill somewhere above you, and the evening air smells like your neighbor's dinners. Nothing interesting ever happens here. So when I stepped into the dim stairwell to check my mailbox that day, I thought it would be a 1-minute errand. But it turned out to be the beginning of something strange. Our mailboxes are old metal relics, hanging crooked on the wall, their paint chipped and locks barely working. Usually inside mine, there's nothing but utility bills, takeout flyers, and, if I'm lucky, a newspaper from my grandmother in the countryside. I slid my key into my box, turned it, and the little metal door creaked open. That's when a voice behind me said, "And what exactly are we doing here?" I turned around. A man was standing there. Not just any man, the mailman. But this wasn't the usual friendly guy who delivers packages with a nod. This man looked intense. He was in uniform, cap pulled low over sharp eyes, holding a notebook in one hand and a pen in the other, staring at me like I'd just been caught stealing from a bank vault. "Just checking my mail," I said. "Uh-huh, checking your mail. And why today?" He took one slow step closer. I blinked. "Because it's time?" "Interesting coincidence," he muttered, scribbling something down in his notebook. "And who sent you?" I almost laughed, but his expression was so deadly serious it made me nervous. "No one sent me. I live here. Lives here." Noted. His gaze moved from my mailbox to my hands, as if I might be hiding something. "Did you take the newspaper from apartment 3? "What? No. I only take my own mail." "Curious? I saw you looking in that direction." At that moment, I honestly thought he was going to call the police over some made-up theft. Instead, he leaned toward me and whispered, "It's not as simple here as it looks." I froze. "What do you mean?" "In this building, some people don't get the mail you think they get." A chill ran down my back. I wanted to shut my box and leave, but he stepped in my way. "Have you ever received an envelope with no return address?" "No." "With strange stamps?" "Also no." "Are you sure?" Before I could answer, he yanked open my mailbox and started feeling around inside. "Maybe someone slipped something in without you noticing." My patience was wearing thin. "Look, I just need my electricity bill." "The bill," he cut me off. "That's what they want you to think." And then, like a magician revealing a trick, he pulled from his bag a photocopy of my last utility bill. I stared. "How did you?" "I know everything," he said flatly. "Just stay away from box number 27. My eyes followed his gesture. Box 27 was 2 rows below mine. I'd never even thought about it before. "Why?" I asked. "Because if you open it, there's no coming back." With that, he snapped his notebook shut and walked out of the building like nothing happened. I stood there holding my bill, thinking, what the hell just happened? From that day on, every time I went to check my mail, I felt eyes on me. And I only saw box 27 open once. Inside, there was a single envelope. On it, in sharp black letters, were 3 words. "Next one, you." I try to laugh it off. Crazy old mailman. Some people just live for drama. But a week later, I realized I hadn't seen him again. No letters, no bills, nothing in my box, which was strange because there's always something. Even junk mail. On the 8th day, I heard footsteps echoing in the stairwell as I came home from work. They stopped just as I reached my floor. When I turned the corner, he was there. The same uniform, the same intense stare. But this time, he wasn't alone. A man I'd never seen before stood beside him. Tall, pale, wearing a long dark coat despite the warm weather. The coat looked out of place, almost theatrical, and his hands were hidden in his pockets. "Ah," the mailman said, looking straight at me. "Right on time." I froze halfway down the hall. "For what?" The man in the coat leaned toward the mailman and whispered something, too low for me to hear. The mailman nodded and then, without a smile, "We need to check your box." "Already checked it this morning," I said. "No." The man in the coat spoke for the first time, his voice calm but heavy. "We need to check it now." Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. I wanted to refuse, but before I could, the mailman was already opening my box with his own key. He reached inside, felt around, and pulled out nothing. Just my empty box. He didn't look disappointed. In fact, he looked satisfied. "Good. That's good. Means it's not too late." I stepped closer. "Too late for what?" The man in the coat spoke again, his tone even colder. "You've been marked." I felt my stomach tighten. Marked by what? They exchanged a glance, and that was worse than any answer. The mailman leaned in close, so close I could smell the bitter scent of coffee on his breath. "Stay away from 27. And if anything shows up in your box without a stamp, burn it. Don't open it." They turned and walked away without another word, their footsteps fading down the stairwell. I stood there staring at my empty mailbox, my heart hammering, until I noticed something strange. The lock on box 27 was hanging open, and through the small slot, I could see a corner of an envelope, bright red. I told myself I wouldn't touch it. That's what they warned me about. Stay away from 27. Burn anything without a stamp. But the thing about warnings is they make you curious. And curiosity is dangerous when you're alone in a dim stairwell. The red corner of the envelope seemed to glow through the dust and shadows. It didn't belong there, too clean, too bright, like it had been placed deliberately to catch someone's eye. Maybe mine. I glanced around. The building was quiet. No footsteps, no voices, just the faint hum of a neighbor's TV somewhere above me. My pulse quickened. I knelt down and tugged gently on the little metal door. It swung open without resistance. Inside was a single envelope, deep crimson, with thick black handwriting across the front. No stamp, no return address, just 3 words. "Do you remember?" The paper was warm to the touch, like it had been sitting in sunlight, but this part of the stairwell never got light. The warmth made my fingers tingle. I hesitated. I could hear the mailman's voice in my head. "Burn it. Don't open it." I almost shoved it back in, but then I thought, what if this is just some prank from a neighbor? Maybe they were trying to mess with me after seeing the weird scene with the mailman. I slipped it into my jacket pocket and shut the box. The moment I did, I felt a faint vibration in the envelope like a phone on silent mode. I pulled it out again and held it to my ear. No sound, just that strange rhythmic pulse, almost like a heartbeat. Suddenly, the stairwell light flickered. For less than a second, I saw a figure standing at the far end of the hallway, tall, thin, unmoving. When the light came back, the space was empty. I shoved the envelope back into my pocket and rushed to my apartment, locking the door behind me. But the vibration didn't stop. It was still there, steady, alive. And then a whisper. Not in the room, inside the envelope. It said my name. Twice. Slowly, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the red envelope like it was a living thing. It was still warm, still vibrating, still whispering my name every few minutes, in a voice that was unmistakably human, but not familiar. I thought about throwing it out the window, or burning it right there in the sink. But another thought gnawed at me. What if it stops once I open it? Maybe this was all just my imagination, feeding on a bit of paper in an empty apartment. I took a deep breath and slid my finger under the flap. The vibration stopped instantly. The envelope went cold, silent. Inside was not a letter. No paper, no message. Just a small, square photograph, the kind with a white border, faded at the edges. It showed the hallway outside my apartment door, taken from the exact spot where I was sitting now. The lights were dim, the shadows long. And in the shadows, barely visible, was me, standing in my own door, smiling. My stomach lurched. I had never posed for a photo like that. I had never smiled like that. As I turned the photo over, I saw fresh ink still smudging under my thumb. For words. This was yesterday. I dropped it on the table. That was impossible. I'd been at work yesterday until late. The hallway should have been empty. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. "Check your door." My apartment was silent. No footsteps in the hallway. But I could see the shadow of someone's feet under the crack of my front door. I didn't move at first. The shadow under the door was perfectly still, too still. No shifting weight, no sign of breathing, just there. Whoever was seemed in no hurry to knock. The photograph still lay on the table beside the red envelope. I glanced at it again. That smile, it was so wrong, like it belonged to someone else wearing my skin. My chest tightened. I stepped quietly to the door, my socks muffling the sound. The closer I got, the colder the air felt, as if a draft was seeping in from the hallway. My hand hovered over the peephole, but I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to know. Finally, I looked. The hallway was empty. No person, no movement, just the faint flicker of the old stairwell light at the far end. I exhaled, relieved, until my eyes drifted downward. The feet were still there. Only now I understood why I couldn't see anyone through the peephole. They were standing far too close to the door, pressed flat against it, their head tilted so low I couldn't see their face. I stepped back. The shadows shifted, as if they'd taken a tiny step forward. I could hear something now, a slow, deliberate breath. Then a whisper, so soft I wasn't sure if it was through the door or inside my head. "You opened it." My heart pounded. I grabbed the phone to call someone, anyone, but before I could dial, the sound of paper sliding under the door stopped me. Another envelope. This one wasn't red. It was black. I didn't touch it. I just stared. From the other side of the door came the faintest sound, like someone licking their lips. And then, silence. I stood there for a long time, staring at the black envelope on my floor. It was heavier than the red one had been, the paper thick and strangely soft, like fabric. The edges were perfectly straight, too perfect, as if cut by a machine. I bent down and picked it up. The moment my fingers touched it, the hallway light outside went out. I was now holding it in complete silence and darkness, with only the faint hum of my refrigerator in the background. I wanted to drop it, burn it, but my hands moved on their own, tearing the seal open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No handwriting this time. The message was printed in sharp, black letters. "The mark is on you now." I turned the page over. On the back was a shape, a circle with jagged lines crossing through it. It looked like it had been drawn in something dark and glossy and sticky. My fingers came away stained. Red. The air in my apartment felt heavier, like the walls were pressing inward. My ears popped, as if I just stepped into a deep tunnel. Somewhere far off, I thought I heard the echo of footsteps, slow, measured, coming closer. I dropped the paper and ran to the bathroom. Pulling up my sleeve, I searched my arms for anything unusual. Nothing. Then I lifted my shirt and froze. On the left side of my chest, just above my heart, was the exact same symbol from the paper. Perfectly shaped, perfectly black. I touched it and felt warmth radiating from it, as if something was alive under my skin. The footsteps in the distance stopped. Then a knock came at my door. Not loud, not fast, just one slow thud. And a voice I recognized instantly. "It's the mailman. We need to talk." I opened the door, just a crack, keeping the chain on. The mailman stood there in the dim stairwell light, cap pulled low, eyes darting over my shoulder into the apartment. "Don't invite me in," he said immediately. "Not while you're marked." That sent a chill down my spine. What's happening to me? What is this mark? He glanced both ways down the hallway before leaning close. His voice was low, urgent. "Box 27 isn't for mail. It's a drop point. The red envelopes are warnings. The black ones mean it's already chosen you." I asked. "The collector," he said, like I should already know the name. "It sends messages through the boxes it's claimed. Once you open one, you belong to its list." My mouth was dry. List for what? The mailman's eyes softened, almost pitying. "For collection." He pulled something from his bag, a small, battered key with the number 27 scratched into it. "I've been keeping this locked as long as I could. But it's not my box anymore. It's his." I shook my head. "I don't believe this. You sound insane." "Then explain the mark on your chest," he said without hesitation. My stomach twisted. "How do you know about that?" "Because I had it once, and I got rid of it." He pressed the key into my palm. "You've got one chance. Put something back in the box before midnight. Something personal. Something it will take instead of you." I stared at him. "And if I don't?" His gaze didn't waver. "Then it comes to your door. And it doesn't knock twice." Before I could ask more, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the stairwell. I looked down at the key in my hand and nearly dropped it. The metal was warm, and it was vibrating. I locked the door and leaned against it, staring at the key in my hand. Something personal, the mailman had said. But what could I give up that would mean enough to it to take my place? My mind raced through possibilities. My phone, my wallet, my grandfather's watch. But each choice felt wrong. The idea of losing them made my chest ache, and maybe that was the point. It had to hurt. The mark on my chest was burning now, as if it were impatient. I finally settled on a small wooden box from my desk drawer. Inside was the only photograph I had of my mother and me, taken when I was 5. She was holding me on her lap, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in decades. She died 2 years later. That photo was the most irreplaceable thing I owned. If that didn't count as personal, nothing would. I put the photo back in its box, wrapped it in an old scarf, and slipped it into my jacket. The key to box 27 felt heavier with each step as I made my way down the silent stairwell. The hallway outside the mailboxes was darker than usual. The single bulb overhead was barely glowing. I knelt in front of box 27, slid the key into the lock, and turned it. The door creaked open. Inside was only darkness. Not the normal, empty kind. This felt deeper, like looking into a tunnel. Cold air drifted out, smelling faintly of earth and metal. I placed the wooden box inside. The moment it left my hands, it began to slide forward, pulled by something unseen, until it vanished into the black. I exhaled, thinking it was done. Then, from the darkness, something slid back toward me. Slow, deliberate. An envelope. Read this time. I picked it up with shaking hands. On the front, in that same sharp black handwriting, were 2 words. Not enough. From the shadows of box 27, something moved, a shape, shifting closer. I stumbled back from box 27, the red envelope still in my hand. The movement inside hadn't stopped. It was pressing forward now, filling the darkness like a shadow taking form. The air turned cold enough to make my breath visible. Then I saw it. 2 pale hands slid out of the mailbox first, fingers far too long, the skin stretched tight over bones. They gripped the edges of the metal box and pulled. What came next didn't make sense. It was too big to fit, yet it emerged anyway, as if the space inside didn't follow normal rules. The collector's head was featureless at first, just a smooth surface of mottled gray. Then, slowly, a mouth appeared, wide, lipless, stretching ear to ear. It was smiling, and it was my smile, the exact one from the photograph. I couldn't move. My legs felt locked in place. The thing's body unfolded out of the box, tall and thin, dressed in a tattered black coat. When it stood to its full height, its head nearly touched the ceiling of the hallway. It tilted slightly, studying me like a curious insect, the mark on my chest seared with pain. In my head, not through sound but directly in my thoughts, came its voice. "You open the door. You open me." It stepped forward. The hallway light above us flickered and died, plunging everything into a dull red glow coming from its chest, the same symbol that was on mine. I realized then, the mark wasn't a warning. It was a link. I turned to run for my apartment, but the hallway behind me seemed longer than before, stretching away into darkness. The sound of footsteps followed, slow, steady, patient. Then, from somewhere far above, a voice shouted, "Get down!" The mailman came hurtling down the stairs, something metallic in his hands. The mailman hit the hallway floor running, a heavy iron tool clutched in both hands. It looked like a crowbar, but etched along its length were the same jagged symbols from the mark on my chest. "Move," he shouted. I dove sideways, just as the collector lunged. Its movements were unnatural, jerky, and fluid at the same time, like it was dragging parts of itself through a different space. Its long fingers swiped where my head had been a second earlier, leaving deep scratches in the wall. The mailman swung the iron bar in a wide arc, and when it connected with the collector's chest, the air vibrated with a deep, ringing sound. The creature staggered back, its mouth twisting into something less like a smile and more like a snarl. "Your mark's the anchor," the mailman yelled at me. "Tear it out." I looked down at my chest. The symbol was burning now, pulsing in sync with the glow from the collector's own mark. My hands trembled as I pressed my fingers against it. The skin was hot, and something beneath it moved. The collector lunged again, faster this time. The mailman intercepted it, slamming the crowbar into the ground between them. The hallway lights above shattered all at once, showering us in sparks. "Now," he barked. I dug my nails into the mark, pain exploding through my ribs. The skin tore, but instead of blood, there was a thick black thread stretching from me to the collector. It wasn't attached to the skin. It was rooted deep inside. The creature let out a sound that was part scream, part laugh. It reached for the thread. I yanked with everything I had. The thread snapped. The collector reeled backward, its form unraveling like smoke pulled into a vent. Its smile lingered in the air a moment too long before vanishing completely. The black thread in my hands crumbled to ash. The hallway was silent again. The mailman leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "You're clear," he said finally. "For now." I stared at him. "What was that thing?" He shook his head. "You don't want to know? Just remember this. Never open another envelope without a stamp." He started up the stairs, and before he disappeared, he tossed the key to box 27 at my feet. "You keep it. If it calls again, you'll be the one to lock it." I didn't pick it up right away, because as it landed on the floor, I saw something scratched into its side. Fresh, not there before. "Next one, you."